given a challenge like the Bat Pod, it's a matter of first just playing a lot of different sounds to that image. My feeling is that you need to start with something real. You can manipulate a real sound pretty dramatically. And then Chris had the idea that it should never shift, that it should just keep ascending in pitch, like an unstoppable force. We had an idea to use a concept called a shepherd tone, which allows you to continually change the pitch of something infinitely, and it requires that the sound have a specific pitch. Most electric motors do, so we gravitated towards those. Recorded some electric race cars, a Tesla, kind of high-tech electric dragsters, basically, and kind of manipulate them and then cut those sounds to picture.
The fun thing about having the Bat Pod in this movie is that it does all the great things that the Tumbler did. It's fast and it's cool and it's fun to watch. But it also adds a little bit of jeopardy somehow. It's a little bit more dangerous than the Tumbler was for Batman, and it's visually exciting. Watching Batman chase down the streets of Gotham sort of keeps you on the edge of your seat.
We always wanted Batman Begins to end with a sense of excitement and possibilities for how the story would continue. Not because we knew we were going to make a sequel, but because that was the feeling we wanted the audience to leave the theatre with. Like, oh, I'd love to see more of that.
When we started to talk about doing The Dark Knight, and this is before we ever had a script, Chris very early on said, you know, I think I want to make it feel bigger and actually be bigger, but not just make it bigger and grander for the sake of making it bigger and grander. It had to come out of the story.
We were very much soundstage based on the first film, and we came to the conclusion that we should go into a city and, you know, do as little soundstage work as possible. You know, real buildings, real locations, on a large scale.
We're always challenging ourselves to try to figure out how we can do it better and deliver something to the audience that they're going to be, more impressed with than the first time. In my case, the camera and lighting. What surprised me when I first read the script there were a lot more day scenes than there had been in Batman Begins. So right away I saw that there was going to be kind of a greater variety to the looks we could do in this picture.
And the decision to shoot the film to a large extent with IMAX cameras came out of our desire to make this film bigger and better than the last one.
This ranks as a milestone in IMAX. It comes to mind, the first time we saw the dailies from space. When we saw the dailies from the top of Everest, from the Titanic, this is truly extraordinary.
Working in IMAX this time, for the visual effects department especially, what that meant was obviously working it in much larger resolutions and much more detail.
We were going in at extraordinarily high resolution specifications, much bigger than anyone had ever done before, which also made all our visual effects companies very agitated. In other words, we just pushed everyone to the limit.
How often you get a director who says, we're going to shoot this in IMAX, and me going, okay, if you shoot this in IMAX, I better go and live up to that, which means I have to get out the big toys.
Because Chris had raised the bar, certainly, in his work on the movie, I think we felt that we had to bring something kind of astonishing and new to the movie, and I think we've labored mightily to do that.
My direction from Chris was to just make everything powerful. He was interested in this gritty kind of real-world feel. The weapons are pretty much as recorded, just larger caliber. Like the Joker's machine pistol is actually a minigun, which is a weapon that's mounted on the bottom of attack helicopters. Batman's cannons, the big guns that are mounted on the front of the Tumbler, he just wanted to sound huge, like howitzers. So that's something that we kept making bigger and bigger.
We knew we had a tough act to follow with Batman Begins. Tough act to follow. Chris really got into, the destruction side of it on this one, which worked in well with the Joker's whole persona. Just the whole psyche of the guy gave us that extra ability to raise the bar.
We all talked about whether there was more action in this one than Batman Begins, but I think in the end there's an awful lot of action in it. and we just wanted to keep coming up with fresh ideas and keep to our modem of doing things for real whenever we could.
It was a film that came out of its planning. So when it actually came to the execution, there was a degree of calmness entered. And one of the great things with the film as we worked our way along was, we were doing these things once. We weren't, we didn't quite get the cameras in the rows, or we didn't quite get that, and it all stems back to Chris. He saw a different vision and a different level of everything. He sees it, and then he briefs us, and then we become part of that vision and we execute that vision. So to raise the bar, it's quite simply the director, Chris Nolan.
I was fascinated by the challenge of trying to bring even more scope and even more excitement than we did in the first film. Each stage of making an enormous film like this presents its own challenges but has its own rewards. It's very exciting. We wind up traveling the world and zooming around on helicopters and racing the Batmobile around real streets and creating all kinds of ridiculous explosions. I mean, it's the kind of job that if you knew you were going to be doing this job when you were 12 years old, you wouldn't believe your luck. And some days that's very much how it feels.